A lot of times in relationships, people have to put up boundaries, but that also gets confused with putting up walls. Let's unpack and talk about what's the difference between a boundary versus a wall.
Yeah, and I have noticed that there is a huge difference between a boundary and a wall. Walls tend to not let anything in. It's stoned, it's immovable, and not very flexible. And boundaries are more like a fence where you can see through it and they can be adjustable.
That's a really great analogy. And like you said, you think about a wall. A wall is usually like really, really tall. Like you said, it's hard to get around it or get through it versus with a fence. You know, I even think about like just with having kids, you know, fences to help keep the kids in the yard so that they can be outside and they can play, but that there's still kind of this boundary where they're still safe. But it's also maybe keeping things out, strangers in your yard or animals that are running around.
Yeah, it's a really great point. And I like to think of it in relationships. When I feel like there is something that's unsafe to me or a trigger to me or maybe even not healthy to me, I put up a boundary to keep my heart and myself safe. Compared to a wall, if I'm putting up a wall with somebody or a certain thing, then there's no way that that thing can ever get let in. And sometimes we gotta be flexible to make adjustments as things change.
You know, I've heard people say, well, boundaries aren't, you know, that's not a Christian thing to do. But it's actually very scriptural. Even Jesus would tell his disciples, like, you stay here, I need to go pray. And we may not think of that as a boundary, but it really was. Jesus was saying, I need some alone time with my Father. So I love you guys. You're my homies, but you guys got to stay here. I got to go be by myself for a while and have that alone time. And so even Jesus modeled having healthy boundaries for us. I also think about the difference being boundaries are about love, or they're love driven, whereas walls are fear driven. If I feel like I need to put up a wall with somebody, then it's like, I don't want to have anything to do with you at all. Like, you stay over there, I'm over here, we're totally separated.
A closed door per se.
Closed door. Whereas with a boundary, I'm protecting things that are important to me, respecting myself, loving myself, but also loving and respecting you enough to say that, hey, we're not at a place where we can, you can be inside the fence. We've got to talk from the other side of the fence. So.
No, that's really great. So I just think in summary, we need to realize there is a big difference between walls and boundaries, and knowing the difference between walls and boundaries.
Yeah, what's driving, that? Is it love or is it fear? But just make sure it's okay and it's scriptural to have healthy boundaries. But we should be careful about putting up walls.
Great. Love it.